A young mother walks alone on a dimly lit street late at night. Every sound seems louder, every shadow seems threatening. Her heart races, fear grips her, and she feels utterly vulnerable. But then, almost instinctively, words she learned as a child rise to her lips. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." As she whispers the psalm, something shifts. The pounding of her heart slows, the tightness in her chest eases, and a strange, unexplainable peace washes over her. The street is no less dark, the dangers are no less real, but suddenly she is not afraid. She feels covered, guarded, shielded. This is the mystery of God's Word. It doesn't just inspire, it protects. For thousands of years, men and women of faith have turned to the Psalms in their darkest moments. Soldiers in battle, carrying Psalm 91 in their pockets. Children praying Psalm 23 through tears. Weary travelers repeating Psalm 121 as they journey through dangerous lands. Could it be that these ancient prayers were not just songs, but keys, divine secrets that unlock God's protection over our lives today? If you've ever longed for safety, comfort, and strength in the face of fear, you're about to discover 7 Psalms that open the door to God's powerful covering over you and your family. We live in a world where fear surrounds us on every side. News headlines remind us daily of violence, sickness, and uncertainty. Many lie awake at night replaying their worries, wondering if they or their loved ones are truly safe. Deep down, every heart cries out for protection, for a place where we can feel secure, sheltered, and unshaken, no matter what storms rage around us. This longing isn't new. Thousands of years ago, King David and the writers of the Psalms felt the same pressing need. They faced real enemies, betrayal from close friends, nights of hiding in caves, and moments when their very lives were at stake. Yet instead of being crushed by fear, they wrote words of hope and confidence in God's covering. They discovered something we often forget. Protection is not found in weapons, walls, or wealth, but in the living presence of God Himself. That is why the Psalms speak so powerfully to us today. They are more than poetry. They are prayers, promises, and declarations that invite God's strength into our weakness. They remind us that we are not alone in the fight. They teach us how to dwell in God's shelter when everything around us feels unsafe. Perhaps you have whispered a psalm in a moment of desperation, or maybe you've never realized just how many of these songs were written as shields for the soul. When you read them with faith, they do more than bring comfort. They activate a reality of God's protection in your life. In this journey, we will walk through 7 specific psalms that reveal God's covering in different ways. Each one speaks to a unique need: fear, danger, loneliness, anxiety, even betrayal. As we unfold their meaning, you will see that these aren't just words on a page. They are living promises, meant to be prayed, declared, and believed. So as you listen, let your heart stay open. Ask yourself, what would my life look like if I fully trusted in these words? What battles could I face with courage? What fears would finally lose their grip on me? The Psalms are not locked away in the past. They are alive, waiting to become your refuge today. And together, we're about to uncover 7 of the most powerful ones. Psalm 91 is often called the soldier's psalm, the prayer of protection that countless believers have carried into battle, into hospital rooms, and into the most frightening moments of life. It begins with these words: "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him I will trust." There is no verse in Scripture that paints a clearer picture of safety than this. To dwell in God's secret place is to step under a covering that no weapon, no fear, no enemy can penetrate. Imagine a soldier on the front lines of war. Bullets fly overhead, danger surrounds him, and yet tucked in his pocket is a small piece of paper with Psalm 91 written on it. For generations, men and women have carried these words into the unknown because they believed God would honor them as a shield. And story after story has been told of miraculous escapes, of people who walked away from danger with no explanation other than this: the Lord kept them. But Psalm 91 is not only for soldiers. It is for the single mother raising her children alone, praying for God to keep them safe. It is for the student walking into a hostile environment at school. It is for the traveler stepping onto a plane, the worker entering a dangerous job site, the believer who feels surrounded by spiritual attack. This psalm speaks to every moment we feel exposed, vulnerable, and afraid. The key to unlocking its promise lies in one word: dwell. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High. Protection is not a one-time prayer, but a lifestyle of remaining close to God. Dwelling means choosing daily to seek His presence, to talk with Him, to rest under His wings. When you live in that place, His shadow covers you, His angels surround you, and His promises guard you. There is a hidden strength here for the believer. The world may look at you and see weakness, but heaven sees someone standing under an unshakable fortress. And when fear whispers that you are alone, Psalm 91 answers with a louder voice: you are never alone. God Himself has pledged to shield you, to command His angels concerning you, and to deliver you from every trap. So the question becomes, will you dwell? Will you make His presence your home? Because the one who does will find themselves wrapped in the strongest protection the universe has ever known, the shadow of the Almighty. Psalm 23 may be the most well-known of all the Psalms, yet its power to calm the heart and assure us of God's protection has never faded. It begins with these timeless words: "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." With just a few lines, David draws a picture of God, not as a distant ruler, but as a caring shepherd who watches over his sheep with tenderness and strength. For anyone who feels vulnerable, this psalm whispers a promise: you are not wandering alone. You are being led by the hand of the shepherd. David himself understood the dangers of a shepherd's life. He had fought off lions and bears to protect his flock, and he knew the price of guarding sheep in valleys filled with predators. So when he wrote, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me," he was not speaking of theory. He was declaring a truth he had lived. He knew the shepherd's rod and staff were not only symbols of authority, but tools of defense and guidance. They were proof that God Himself walks with His people even in the darkest places. Think of a child lying in a hospital bed, surrounded by the beeping of machines and the worry on their parents' faces. Fear hovers over the room like a shadow, but then the child softly begins to recite, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." In that moment, something changes. The psalm doesn't erase the sickness, but it speaks a deeper reality. There is a shepherd here, and His presence is greater than the valley. Peace settles, and fear loses its grip. Psalm 23 teaches us that protection is not just about avoiding danger. It's about walking through it with courage because of who is beside us. Life's valleys are unavoidable: sickness, loss, heartbreak, disappointment. But the believer never enters them alone. The shepherd goes before us, stands beside us, and guards behind us. His goodness and mercy follow every step, ensuring that no valley is the end of the story. When you make this psalm your prayer, you are reminding yourself that God is not simply watching from a distance. He is guiding, providing, and shielding you. The comfort of His rod, the direction of His staff, and the promise of His presence make even the darkest path bearable. And at the end of every valley, His table of blessing awaits, proving once again that those who trust the shepherd will always dwell in His house safe and secure forever. Psalm 27 opens with a declaration that shatters the grip of fear. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" These words are not whispered in timidity, but proclaimed with boldness. David is facing enemies, false accusers, and threats to his very life. Yet he begins with confidence. He knows that fear loses its power when God is placed at the center. Imagine a young believer walking into a school where bullying and mockery are a daily reality. Every step into the hallway feels heavy, the fear of ridicule pressing down like a weight. But before leaving home, they prayed Psalm 27, repeating those opening words until they sank into their spirit. Whom shall I fear? Suddenly the mocking voices are no longer giants, but shadows. The confidence doesn't come from inner strength, but from the unshakable truth that the Lord is their light, their salvation, their strength. David continues, Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war may rise against me, in this I will be confident. His language shows us the reality of life. Dangers, opposition, and attacks are certain. But his response shows us the greater reality. When the Lord is your light, no darkness can overcome you. Light exposes lies, scatters fear, and guides every step. Salvation assures us that no matter what enemies surround us, our eternal security is sealed in God's hands. Strength means we do not stand alone. We stand upheld by the one who never fails. What makes Psalm 27 even more powerful is its focus on intimacy with God. David's one desire is not revenge on his enemies or escape from trouble, but this: One thing I have desired of the Lord, that will I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. Protection is not only about what God keeps away from us, but about where God draws us into his presence. That nearness is where fear is dismantled, where courage rises, and where we find peace that cannot be shaken. For the believer today, Psalm 27 is a shield against anxiety and intimidation. It tells us that fear is not the master of our destiny. When God is our light, we can step into dark places with assurance. When he is our salvation, we can face threats without despair. And when he is our strength, no matter how great the opposition, we can declare with David, "In this I will be confident." This psalm invites us to stop asking, "What if?" and start proclaiming, "Whom shall I fear?" Psalm 46 is a psalm for the storms, the earthquakes, the disasters, and the moments when the ground beneath us seems to give way. It begins with the powerful declaration, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, even though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. These words were not written for calm days, but for moments when chaos surrounds us. They remind us that God is not distant in crisis. He is an ever-present help, closer than the very air we breathe. Picture a family huddled together as a hurricane rages outside. Winds shake the windows, thunder roars, and fear threatens to consume them. In the middle of the storm, they open a Bible and read Psalm 46 aloud. As the words echo through the room, something unshakable fills their hearts. The storm may be violent, but they know that the Lord of hosts is with them, and the God of Jacob is their refuge. The walls may tremble, but their faith stands firm, because their foundation is not the house around them, but the God who shelters them. This psalm reminds us that protection is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of God in the midst of it. The psalmist paints vivid pictures of roaring waters and tottering mountains, yet anchors every fear in the assurance that God is a fortress. Later, the psalm declares, "Be still and know that I am God." These words cut through the noise of crisis. They invite us to stop striving, stop panicking, and recognize that the one who reigns over the nations also reigns over our lives. For the believer today, Psalm 46 speaks directly to the anxieties of a collapsing world. Natural disasters, global uncertainty, and personal crises may shake us, but they cannot shake the God who holds us. His refuge is not symbolic, it is real. His strength is not temporary, it is everlasting. His help is not delayed, it is present. When everything around you feels unstable, Psalm 46 calls you to lift your eyes above the storm and see the fortress that cannot be moved. It assures you that God's protection is not fragile, not conditional, and not limited by circumstance. He is the stronghold you can run into, the shelter that stands when everything else falls. And because He is with you, you can face any storm with unshakable confidence. Psalm 121 is often called the Traveler's Psalm, a song of ascent sung by pilgrims journeying to Jerusalem through rugged, dangerous terrain. It begins with a question that still resonates today. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? In the ancient world, hills could represent both beauty and danger. Bandits lurked in the shadows, wild animals prowled the paths, and the journey was long and uncertain. Yet the psalmist answers his own question with assurance. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Imagine someone embarking on a long journey far from home. Fear of accidents, danger, or the unknown weighs heavily. But as they whisper the words of Psalm 121, a deeper truth takes hold. Their safety does not depend on luck, skill, or chance, but on the Lord who created the very earth they travel upon. The God who spoke the mountains into existence promises to watch over every step they take. The psalm continues with a promise that feels deeply personal. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Unlike human protectors who grow tired, God never dozes off, never turns away, never takes His eyes off His children. His vigilance is constant, His care unbroken. Every moment of your life is held in His attentive watch. This protection is not only spiritual, but practical. The psalmist declares, "The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going both now and forevermore." The picture is one of total coverage. Your journeys, your rest, your beginnings, your endings, your present moments, and your eternal destiny. Nothing escapes His care. For the believer today, Psalm 121 is a reminder that we do not walk through life's dangers alone. Whether stepping onto an airplane, sending a child off to school, driving down a busy road, or facing the uncertainties of tomorrow, we can claim this promise. The Lord Himself is our keeper. His protection is not bound by location or time. It extends both now and forevermore. Psalm 121 invites us to lift our eyes away from fear and toward the One who rules over heaven and earth. It calls us to trust that the same God who watches over the stars also watches over our every step. And when we believe this, we find courage to move forward, knowing that our lives rest safely in the hands of the eternal Keeper. Psalm 34 is a psalm of deliverance, a song born out of desperation and fear. David wrote it after escaping from a dangerous situation by pretending to be insane before a foreign king. Out of that moment of terror, he declared these words, "I sought the Lord, and He answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to Him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame." This psalm is a reminder that God's protection does not only guard us from physical harm, but also from the invisible prison of fear that tries to dominate our hearts. Fear can be crippling. It can keep us awake at night, steal our joy, and paralyze us from moving forward. Picture someone battling panic attacks, overwhelmed by dread they cannot explain. They turn to Psalm 34, reading those lines again and again. "He delivered me from all my fears." Slowly, the storm inside begins to quiet. The promise does not deny the reality of fear, but it proclaims a greater truth, that the Lord Himself steps into the battle of the mind and sets His children free. David continues, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear Him, and He delivers them." This paints a powerful image. Not only is God near, but He commands heavenly armies to surround His people. Protection is not abstract. It is active, living, and ongoing. Where fear surrounds you, God surrounds your fear. Where anxiety tries to take hold, His angels stand guard. Psalm 34 also shifts our focus from fear to worship. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. Deliverance from fear is not just about escape. It is about discovering the sweetness of God's presence. Fear loses its grip when we realize that God's goodness is greater than any threat against us. The act of worship itself becomes a weapon, lifting our eyes from danger to the one who reigns above it all. For today's believer, this psalm is an invitation to stop letting fear dictate the course of life. Whether the fear is of failure, rejection, sickness, or the unknown, Psalm 34 declares that the Lord delivers. It challenges us to replace panic with prayer, dread with trust, and trembling with praise. The God who rescued David from death and shame is the same God who surrounds us now. And when we seek him with all our hearts, he answers, not with distant words, but with deliverance that frees us from every fear. Psalm 3 was written in one of the darkest moments of David's life, when he fled from Jerusalem as his own son Absalom rose against him. Betrayal from strangers is painful, but betrayal from your own child cuts the deepest. Surrounded by enemies, abandoned by allies, and weighed down with sorrow, David turned to God with these words, "Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high." This psalm reveals the heart of protection in the midst of personal crisis. David does not deny the danger. He acknowledges the voices that mock him and the enemies that pursue him. Yet in the same breath, he proclaims that the Lord himself is a shield. Notice the intimacy of his words. Not just a shield in front, but a shield around me. God's protection is total, covering every side, guarding against attacks we see and those we do not. Picture someone who has been betrayed by a close friend or family member. The pain feels unbearable, the sense of safety shattered. In that place of broken trust, Psalm 3 speaks hope. God becomes the shield when people fail. He becomes the glory when shame tries to crush us. He lifts our heads when grief pushes us down. His protection is not only about safety from enemies, but restoration of dignity when others try to strip it away. David also writes, "I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me." Think about the depth of faith it takes to sleep when your life is in danger, when armies pursue you and betrayal surrounds you. Yet David rests because he knows God's shield is greater than human plots. Sleep becomes an act of trust, a declaration that the Lord alone holds his life secure. For us today, Psalm 3 is a promise that God's protection reaches into the most personal battles. It reminds us that when others turn against us, when voices declare we will not make it, when fear says we are finished, God speaks louder. He covers us, sustains us, and lifts us up. This psalm invites us to stop fighting for our own defense and instead trust the God who encircles us with his presence. No betrayal, no enemy, no accusation can pierce the shield of the Lord. And because of that, like David, we can rest in peace, knowing our lives are in his hands. What would change in your life if you believed these promises today? Each of these psalms is more than ancient poetry. They are living declarations of God's presence. They were not written only for David or the people of Israel long ago, but for you right now, in the very battles you are facing. If Psalm 91 shows us the shelter of the Most High, Psalm 23 reminds us that even in the valley of shadows, the shepherd walks with us. And yet the question remains, how do we face fear when it surrounds us on every side? That's where Psalm 27 steps in, declaring with boldness that the Lord is our light and salvation. When fear threatens to paralyze us, this psalm calls us to lift our heads and proclaim confidence in God. But what happens when the storms of life grow so fierce that everything feels unstable? Psalm 46 reminds us that God is not only a refuge, but a present help in times of trouble. His voice cuts through the chaos with the command to be still and know that He is God. Still, protection is not only for the great crises of life, it is for our daily steps, our journeys, and our routines. Psalm 121 assures us that the Lord watches over our coming and going, both now and forevermore. Yet protection is not only about physical safety. Sometimes the greatest danger is fear itself. Psalm 34 tells us that those who seek the Lord will be delivered from their fears, and that his angels surround those who trust him. Finally, even in seasons of betrayal, when the people closest to us turn against us, God remains faithful. Psalm 3 declares that he is a shield around us, the one who lifts our heads when shame and sorrow weigh us down. Each psalm builds upon the last, forming a tapestry of God's protection over every part of our lives, our hearts, our minds, our journeys, and our battles. Together, they show us that God's covering is not fragile or partial, but complete. And when we take these words into our own prayers, we are not just reciting lines, we are stepping into the shelter of the Almighty himself. When we look back at these 7 Psalms, a powerful truth emerges. God's protection is not a thin shield or a distant promise, but a living reality for those who trust him. Psalm 91 reminds us that when we dwell in his presence, we are covered by his shadow. Psalm 23 assures us that even in the darkest valleys, the shepherd walks beside us. Psalm 27 teaches us that fear loses its grip when the Lord becomes our light and salvation. Psalm 46 declares that God is our refuge in the middle of life's storms. Psalm 121 promises that he watches over our steps, both now and forevermore. Psalm 34 reveals that he delivers us not only from danger, but from fear itself. And Psalm 3 shows us that even in betrayal and personal heartbreak, he is the shield that surrounds us and the glory that lifts our heads. Together, these psalms form a mosaic of God's care. They speak to every season of life, the battles, the storms, the journeys, the anxieties, and the betrayals. They remind us that protection is not about living a life free from trouble, but about walking through every trial with the confidence that God himself goes before us, stands beside us, and guards us from behind. Think of what it would mean to weave these words into your daily life, to wake each morning declaring, "The Lord is my light and my salvation." To pray before bed, "You are my shield, O Lord, the one who lifts my head high." To whisper during moments of fear, "He delivers me from all my fears." To travel, to work, to rest, carrying the assurance that the Maker of heaven and earth is watching over you. This is not distant religion. This is the heartbeat of relationship with God. These psalms are not empty phrases, they are lifelines. They are reminders that no matter what rises against you, the covering of the Almighty is stronger. So let these psalms become more than words on a page. Let them become your prayers, your declarations, your songs in the night. As you speak them, believe them. As you believe them, live them. And as you live them, you will discover the unshakable truth. God's protection is not a wish, it is a promise. And those who rest in him will never be left unguarded. As you've listened to these 7 psalms, I want to invite you to take a moment and reflect. Which one spoke most deeply to your heart? Was it the assurance of Psalm 91, the comfort of Psalm 23, or the courage of Psalm 27? Perhaps it was the reminder of Psalm 34 that God delivers us from all our fears. Whatever it was, don't let these words pass by as simple inspiration. Take one psalm and begin praying it daily over your life, over your family, and over your future. Speak it in the morning before the day begins. Whisper it at night before you close your eyes, and let it become part of your walk with God. I encourage you to share your journey. In the comments, write down which psalm you are choosing to stand on this week. Testify of how God has protected you in the past, and speak faith into how he will protect you in the days to come. Your story could be the encouragement someone else desperately needs. If this message has stirred your faith and reminded you of the power of God's Word, I invite you to subscribe and join this community of believers who are hungry for more of him. Together, we are seeking his presence, standing on his promises, and walking in his protection. And before we end, I want to speak a blessing over you. May the Lord be your refuge and fortress. May his angels surround your home. May His peace guard your heart and mind, and may you walk every step with confidence, knowing that you are never unprotected, for the God of heaven is your shield.